Welcome, and I'm truly grateful you're here today. Before we begin, if you resonate with deep, transformative ideas like this, I invite you to become a member of my channel, Mind Clarity, where we explore the truth about who you really are and what you're truly capable of. This space is not just about listening, it's about awakening something within you that has always been there. So take a moment, be present, and allow yourself to experience this message fully. What if everything you've believed about who you are isn't actually who you are? What if the life you're living right now is only a reflection of a much smaller version of yourself? Somewhere within you exists something unchanging, limitless, and powerful, and most people go their entire lives without ever discovering it. Today isn't just about listening, it's about awakening to that truth. Because the moment you see yourself differently, your entire reality begins to shift. I've reached a point within myself where I understand something very clearly now. It's not really about what you want or what you're trying to manifest. It goes much deeper than that. It's about who you are becoming. Your life doesn't respond to your wishes alone. It reflects your identity. You don't attract what you simply desire. You attract what you embody. This is really about evolving into the highest version of yourself. It's about raising your awareness, aligning yourself with something greater, with your source, with God. And when that alignment happens, something shifts. You stop feeling like you're chasing life, and you begin to realize you are shaping it. You step into the role of a creator, someone who actively participates in designing their reality. I want to begin with a thought that feels almost poetic. It comes from Samuel Taylor Coleridge, the same man who wrote The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. He once shared an idea that stayed with me deeply. As you listen, ask yourself honestly if it resonates with you. He imagined this. What if you fell asleep and began to dream? And in that dream, you found yourself in heaven. While there, you discovered a strange and beautiful flower, something unlike anything you've ever seen. Then you woke up, and somehow that flower was still in your hand. Now think about that for a moment. What would that mean? Could something from a place that seems invisible, intangible, or imagined actually become real in your physical world? He spoke in metaphor, but I'm not. What he described can be understood in a very real way. This is about taking something from the unseen, from your imagination, your inner world, and allowing it to take form in your life. Most of us were raised to live what we call an ordinary life. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, ordinary has never felt like enough. Ordinary is following the expected path, doing what you're told, meeting society's standards, being responsible, paying your dues, and eventually, life just passes by. But extraordinary living is something entirely different. It's about recognizing that within you exists something powerful, something unique, something you were never truly taught to trust. It's about learning to access that part of yourself and actually apply it in your daily life. I can tell you from my own experience, I've been committed to living in that space of the extraordinary. And along that journey, I've seen things happen that most people would consider impossible. I'll share those experiences as we go, but more importantly, I want you to understand this. There is so much more available to you than just being average. There is no such thing as an average person listening to this right now. Not you, not anyone. Every single one of us carries something extraordinary within. The only thing missing is belief. The moment you begin to truly believe in that part of yourself, everything starts to change. I remember a friend of mine, Portia Nelson. She passed away some years ago, but she left behind something incredibly powerful. She was once asked at a seminar to write down the 5 chapters of her life on a small card. Just 5 short chapters, nothing long or complicated. And what she wrote was simple, but deeply meaningful. In the first chapter, she described walking down a street and falling into a deep hole in the sidewalk. She felt stuck, lost, and helpless. She didn't blame herself, but it took a long time to find a way out. In the second chapter, she walked down the same street again. The hole was still there. This time, she saw it, but she still fell in. The pattern repeated, and once again, it took time to climb out. And this is where many of us live without even realizing it. We repeat the same patterns, the same thoughts, the same behaviors, even when we can see where they lead. But awareness is the beginning of transformation. Once you start seeing clearly, you begin to understand that you have a choice. You don't have to keep walking the same path. You don't have to keep falling into the same holes. You can choose differently. You can become differently. And when you do, your life begins to reflect that change in ways you never thought possible. Then comes another stage. I walk down the same street again. The hole is still there. Nothing about it has changed. But this time, I act like I don't notice it. I pretend it's not there, and before I know it, I fall into it once again. And I'm sitting there thinking, how did this happen again? It feels familiar, frustrating. I still don't take responsibility, and it still takes me a long time to find my way out. Then life shifts a little more. Now I walk down that same street again. The hole hasn't moved. It's exactly where it always was. But this time, I see it clearly. I recognize it. And yet, I still fall in. Why? Because it's become a habit. Even though I'm aware now, the pattern still pulls me in. But something is different. I know where I am, and I admit that this time, it's on me. And because of that awareness, I don't stay stuck as long. I get out much faster. Then comes another level of growth. Once again, I walk down that same street. The hole is still there, just as deep as ever. But this time, I don't fall in. I simply walk around it. I've learned. I've changed my response. And finally, there comes a moment where everything shifts completely. I choose to walk down a different street altogether. That's what real change looks like. It's not just about avoiding the same mistakes, it's about transforming the path you choose to walk on. When I talk about leaving behind the ordinary, this is what I mean. Ordinary isn't just about routine, it's about staying stuck in patterns that keep you small. It's about trying to fit into expectations, trying to blend in, trying to be like everyone else. But extraordinary living requires something deeper. It asks you to go within. It asks you to connect with that invisible part of yourself, the part we often call the soul. Your soul isn't interested in playing small. It doesn't crave limitations, rules, or boundaries. I remember listening to a teacher once, a very wise man from Bulgaria, who spoke about the nature of the soul in a way that stayed with me. He explained that the soul isn't really seeking knowledge or even happiness in the way we usually think about it. What it truly longs for is space, expansion, freedom. The soul wants to grow, to stretch beyond limits, to experience something infinite. It feels alive when it's allowed to expand and connect with something greater. And it suffers when it's confined, restricted, or boxed in. Because in truth, your soul is not small. It's a part of something vast and limitless. It's connected to an infinite source. And when you try to live within tight boundaries, when you accept limitations about who you can be or what you can have, it feels unnatural to that deeper part of you. That's really what this message is about. It's about moving beyond the need to fit into small definitions. It's about stepping outside of the invisible fences that have been placed around you, many of them since childhood. From a very early age, we're told what's possible and what's not. We're given rules about who we should be, how far we can go, what we're allowed to dream. And over time, we start to believe those limits. But they were never truly yours. I remember a moment that brought this idea into sharp focus for me. I was swimming in a pool during a visit to see my daughter. As I went back and forth, something written on the wall kept catching my attention. Every time I looked up, I saw the same message, and it hit me deeply. If you want to achieve something, you have to expect it from yourself first. That idea stayed with me because it raises an important question. What do you actually expect from yourself?
Do you expect that your life can be extraordinary? Do you believe you can create the kind of success, love, and abundance you truly desire? Do you see yourself as someone capable of experiencing something beyond the ordinary? Because if you don't expect it, you won't allow it. To raise your expectations, something inside you has to shift. You have to redefine what's possible for you. You have to let go of the old beliefs that told you to stay small and start opening yourself up to something greater. And that brings us to one of the most important questions you can ever ask yourself. Who am I? I've spent decades teaching, studying, speaking to people from all walks of life, students, professionals, audiences around the world. And this question keeps coming back again and again. Who are you, really? And what is real? These are not simple questions, but they are the ones that begin to unlock everything. I once had a teacher in India, a man whose presence alone carried deep wisdom. His name was Nisargadatta Maharaj, and when he was asked this very question about identity, about who we truly are, he didn't answer in a complicated way. He pointed inward. Because the truth is, until you begin to explore that question for yourself, until you start to look beyond the roles, the labels, the expectations, you will keep walking down the same street, facing the same patterns. But the moment you begin to see clearly, the moment you begin to shift how you see yourself, that's when everything begins to change. Someone once asked a simple but powerful question: what is real? And the answer that came back was just as simple, yet incredibly profound. What is real is that which never changes. So think about that for a moment. If that is the definition of what's real, then what part of you actually fits that description? Who are you beyond everything that keeps changing? Many of us immediately think of our body when we think about who we are. But if you really look at it, your body is constantly changing. It's not the same as it was years ago. In fact, it's not even the same as it was a short time ago. Cells change, appearance changes, everything about it evolves over time. If I look back at my own life, I've lived in many different versions of this body. I've been a child, a teenager, a young adult, and so many other versions in between. Each stage felt real at the time. When you were younger, didn't that version of you feel completely real? Of course it did. But where is that version now? You can't find it anymore. It's gone. And the same will happen to the body you are in right now. It will change, just like all the others did. So if it keeps changing, it cannot be what is truly real. What's real must be something constant, something that remains the same no matter what stage of life you are in. And that means the real you is not your body. There is something within you that continues, something that moves through all these different forms without changing its essence. That is who you truly are. There was a poet, Emily Dickinson, who expressed this idea in a beautiful way. She spoke about how what we see as physical life eventually becomes nothing more than dust. What once was full of energy, laughter, personality, and movement becomes still and silent. Everything that appears so solid and real eventually fades. And if we define ourselves only by that physical layer, then we are identifying with something temporary. But you are not temporary. The truth is, everything in the physical world is constantly shifting. Nothing here stays the same, which means it doesn't fully meet the definition of what is real. Who you are goes deeper than that. You are that inner presence, the part of you that wants to grow, expand, and experience freedom. The part that feels drawn towards something bigger, something infinite. That part of you is not bound by time. It doesn't begin and it doesn't end. It simply is. And living from that awareness changes everything. Because most of us have been programmed to believe something very different. We've been taught that who we are is based on what we have, what we achieve, and how others see us. We've been conditioned to measure ourselves by success, status, and approval.
We start believing that our identity is tied to our possessions, our accomplishments, and our reputation. And even more limiting, we begin to feel separate from each other and from the source that created us. From a young age, we're pushed into the world with the idea that we have to prove ourselves. We have to earn our worth. We have to chase validation. But that belief system comes from the ego, not from truth. Real transformation begins when you start shifting away from that mindset. When you stop defining yourself by external things and begin to reconnect with your true nature.
What really matters is the direction your life is moving in, not where your ego has temporarily placed you right now. Because your current situation doesn't define your essence. At your core, you are something infinite, a presence that continues beyond forms, beyond roles, beyond time itself. You've been moving through different experiences, different identities, different bodies, but the essence of you has always remained the same. There is no true beginning, and there is no real ending. There is only this present moment, and the awareness that exists within it. And within you, there is something extraordinary. A part of you that knows, deep down, that you are capable of so much more. A part that understands you can create, achieve, and experience anything you truly align yourself with. But to access that, you have to shift your expectations. You have to question the beliefs you've been carrying for so long. The ones that tell you that you are limited, that you are not worthy of abundance, that you are incapable of healing or growth without something outside of you. Those beliefs are not your truth. They were learned, repeated, and accepted, but they are not who you are. Within you, there is a deeper knowing, a quiet but powerful awareness that you are already connected to something greater, that what you're seeking is not outside of you, it's within you. And when you begin to trust that, when you begin to live from that place, everything starts to shift. Because the truth is, that presence within you, that awareness, that consciousness, is not separate from God. It is an expression of it. And every single one of us carries that same divine essence within. When you really sit with this idea, it begins to challenge almost everything you were taught to believe about yourself. You start to notice how much of your identity has been built on things that are temporary. Your appearance, your achievements, your roles, even your past experiences. And yet, beneath all of that, there is a quiet awareness that has always been there, unchanged. That awareness is the part of you that observed your childhood, your teenage years, your successes, your struggles. It watched everything, but it was never defined by any of it. It didn't grow older. It didn't become better or worse. It simply remained present. And that is the part of you that is real. The more you begin to identify with that unchanging presence, the less controlled you become by fear, doubt, and limitation. Because those things belong to the changing world, the world of form, circumstances, and conditions. But your true nature exists beyond all of that. This is where real freedom begins. Not the kind of freedom that comes from external success, but the kind that comes from knowing that nothing outside of you has the power to define you. When you understand that, you stop chasing validation and you start living from a place of inner certainty. And from that place, creation becomes natural. You no longer try to force things into existence or struggle to make life happen. Instead, you begin to align yourself with what you already are. You start to feel as if what you desire is not something distant, but something that is already connected to you at a deeper level. And that shift changes everything. Because when your identity changes, your reality follows. If you see yourself as limited, life will reflect limitation. If you see yourself as separate, life will reflect disconnection. But when you begin to see yourself as whole, as capable, as deeply connected to something infinite, your experiences begin to mirror that truth. This is why expectation is so powerful. Not just wishful thinking, but a deep inner knowing. When you expect something at the level of your identity, you are no longer hoping for it. You are aligning with it, and life responds to that alignment. Most people try to change their life by changing their actions alone, but real transformation happens when you change your sense of self. When you move from, I hope this happens, to this is who I am, everything begins to reorganize around that belief. It's also important to understand that this isn't about denying reality or pretending challenges don't exist. It's about not letting those challenges define you. It's about recognizing that circumstances are temporary, but your inner nature is constant. And when you live from that constant place, you stop reacting to life and start shaping it. You begin to trust yourself more. You listen to that inner voice that has always been there, guiding you quietly. You become less dependent on external approval and more connected to your own truth. Over time, this creates a completely different way of living. You move with more clarity, more confidence, and more peace. You stop walking down the same street of old patterns because you are no longer the same person who created them. And eventually, you realize something even deeper, that what you were searching for outside of yourself was never separate from you in the first place. It was always within you, waiting for you to recognize it, trust it, and live from it. It comes down to a single realization. You were never meant to live a limited or ordinary life. Everything you have been searching for outside of yourself has always existed within you, waiting to be recognized. The body may change, circumstances may shift, and the world around you may constantly evolve, but there is a part of you that remains untouched, steady, and infinite. When you begin to live from that place, fear loses its grip, and doubt no longer defines your path. You stop repeating the same patterns, not by force, but because you have outgrown them. You no longer try to prove your worth because you understand it was never missing. Instead of chasing life, you begin to align with it, and in that alignment, creation becomes effortless. Your expectations rise, your identity expands, and your reality starts to mirror that inner transformation. This is the shift, from being conditioned by the world to consciously creating within it. And once you truly see who you are, there is no going back to who you used to be.